So let's talk about aspirin. Well, aspirin and willow tree bark, but mainly aspirin. We're going to be talking about the great uses of aspirin and what are the side effects. We're going to be talking about how it's made, and finally, we're going to be answering the question, which one is better, aspirin or willow tree bark? Folks, stay tuned, because this is going to be a fun one. Side note, Mr. Lamar has instructed me not to call him by his first name, which we all know is However, I will be saying his first name, which as we all know is However, I will be bleeping it out. So, it's a compromise, you know? I'll be saying his name, but really won't feel, let's say, won't feel alienated or uncomfortable by the fact that I'm calling Mr. Lamar, or as some of you cool folks call him. Alright, let's get started. So, welcome to my science project. Let's start off with aspirin. Aspirin is a mild pain-relieving drug. It's used by many people daily. People with chronic pain, it can be extremely useful for them. Another great use for aspirin, and this isn't entirely proven, is reducing the chances of cancer or stroke. Now, again, there's no definitive evidence that this is actually true, but it is, it is well documented that this may be a side effect of aspirin, that you can reduce a cancer. So, some people may take aspirin daily even if they don't have pain, due to the presumed beneficial qualities of it. Let's answer those three questions that assigned me. The first question was, what natural resources are used to make the synthetic product? Let's talk about the willow tree bark, first of all. The chemical in willow tree bark is called salicylic acid. It is also put in aspirin. So when you take a willow tree bark capsule, you are essentially consuming that same acid, or any sort of willow tree bark in any sort of form. You can get tons of kinds. So in addition to the salicylic acid, we have some other ingredients that help to make that active ingredient. Sodium salicyate, another solicitate. Are they in the solicitate club or what? And acetyl chloride. The official title for aspirin, or rather its chemical name, is acetylsalicylic acid, which is all three of those cool chemicals we just mentioned combined. I should further elaborate on the aspirin's ingredients, because that is, I think, word for word, one of the things I have to do in the rubric. I should mention that the inactive ingredient in aspirin is cornstarch and water. Where is cornstarch derived from? Well, I'll tell you. It's derived from corn. Where's water derived from? It's derived from hydrogen and oxygen. They serve as a binding agent, a lubricant, and a filler. Now I must mention where the rest of the ingredients I mentioned go, because that was the request of Sodium salicylate is derived from sodium phenolate and carbon dioxide, and acetyl chloride is derived from acetic anhydride with hydrogen chloride. Thank you very much. On to question 2. I feel like this video is getting a little bit boring, and so I don't bore you, we're going to take a brief 5-second intermission for puppies! Isn't that so cute? Ah, but you're more of a kitten guy, eh? How about a 5-second intermission for kittens? Oh, and while we're at it, I just wanted to say that I love the Yankees. They're just the best baseball team ever. Oh, and the Big Bang Theory TV show and Tesla motor vehicles, they're just so cool. I wish I could have a Tesla. Alright, now back to the information. Let's talk about the chemical processes that are used to make aspirin. It starts with cornstarch, as I mentioned earlier, the active ingredient and the lubricant, and measuring them in separate containers that are not able to produce children, also known as sterile. Ayo, did you get it? Because like a sterile container would be clean, and also something that's sterile would not be able to produce children. It was a sophisticated joke. I understand if you don't get it. The cornstarch is poured into cold, purified water and then heated to a translucent paste. This is poured in with the active ingredient and some of the lubricant. This is mixed, which also expels some of the air from the mixture. This is separated into units that are 7/8 to 1 inch long, called slugs. These are forced through a mesh, and then the rest of the lubricant is added. Then they're placed into actual tablet molds in a process called compression. Finally, they are tested for hardness and friability. We're going to move on to the third and final question, the moment that everyone, including you, has been waiting for. What are the impacts to society of making and using this synthetic product compared to making a more natural product with a similar function? Let's talk about the pros of aspirin to start. It works as a painkiller and a fever reducer. It can reduce heart disease and stroke, as I mentioned earlier, I think. Let's talk about the cons of aspirin. Some people are allergic to aspirin, so it causes allergies, general bleeding, gastrointestinal or stomach irritation and bleeding. And just so you know, I do know what gastrointestinal means, and I will not apologize for using such a big word, because sometimes you like to say, don't use big words if you don't know how to use them. And also another con is stroke-related bleeding in the brain. Isn't that strange? A pro is that it can help with stroke, and con is that it'll hurt with stroke. I'm kind of torn on this. Aspirin, the environmental impacts. Yes, I say environmental. Aspirin will clearly I don't say biodegrade, but it's not like you're throwing aspirin tablets all over the place. You're consuming them. So aspirin, you chew it up, you eat it. You don't chew it, you swallow it. I don't know what I'm talking about. So it's fine. It's not plastic. It's not gonna leave a mark on the earth. With willow tree bark, it is obviously a renewable resource because trees can be replanted, in case you didn't know. Simply chop down the trees and take the bark, or just take a little from each tree so we don't have to kill any plants. Society clearly relies heavily on the use of aspirin in order to get through a day with pain. Willow tree bark seems to work just as well as aspirin though, so really, why not just use willow tree bark? Well, I'll tell you, because I still haven't said that I'm on the side of willow tree bark. This is the moment you've been waiting for. The day in which I tell you which is better, aspirin or willow tree bark. Let's take a quick recap. Aspirin is a little tablet about this big, so small you can hardly even see it. Just kidding, that's not true, it's an atom. Willow tree bark has the same qualities and properties as aspirin and has been used for centuries as a remedy for pain reliever. Both of them relieve pain, both of them have the same active ingredient. So I ask you the question, how do we tell which one is better? Easy. Aspirin is better. What? How could that be possible? I mean, willow tree bark is made from willow trees, and it's like trees. It's better, right? Well, I'll tell you that I think, sure, that's great, trees, renewable resource, but there is one kicker I haven't told you. You're asking which one is better for society? I'll tell you what's better for society. Low cost. Willow bark is great if you have the side effects of aspirin, but otherwise, willow tree bark is just plain too expensive. I found a pack of 1,000 aspirin tablets for $11.50. Now you might say, $11.50, you know, that's a modest price for aspirin, great. Now, I found a pack of 200, keep in mind that's a fifth of 1,000, basic math. 200 willow tree bark capsules, which are these little things that are essentially equivalent to aspirin. And yes, I checked to make sure both capsules were of the same quantity per capsule. And I found them for $14.80. That's 200 willow tree barks for $14.80, which keep in mind is greater than $11.50. And then 1,000 aspirins for $11.50. And they both essentially have the same side effects. The only difference is that willow tree bark will not have the same allergens or the same, say, stomach irritation as aspirin does, which is just for some people. Now, don't get me wrong, for some people, that willow tree bark will be better, but for most people, aspirin is better, and I'm sorry for raising my voice. This is misdirected anger, and I'm sorry. Yes, I got that from The Office. Oh, yes, that was another thing you liked. I just wanted to shoehorn that in there to get as many positive ratings on this video. In conclusion, it just makes more sense to buy aspirin, It's cheaper, it's easier to manufacture, you don't have to chop down trees and ruin all that CO2, even though it is renewable. It's still not infinitely renewable because eventually we're all going to die in a fiery heat death. That's besides the point. I just like to mention that as much as possible. So I hope you didn't think this video was too boring. I tried to put in some graphics to make it more fun and popping out. I'm sorry this wasn't the fun, cool, epic video I made for the history video. That video was great because I could do a montage of me making things. This is not me making things, this is me telling you things. I could have done like a thing where I bought the willow tree bark and I compared them, but honestly that's stupid, too much money. We just had that aspirin laying around, it's fine. So give me an A+. I mean, what do you have to lose? You're an underpaid teacher. Honestly, you should be paid more because if you look at places like the Swedes, they are paying teachers a lot more money. They're paying teachers as much as doctors get paid, and I think that really says something about how okay, I think I'm getting too sidetracked. Anyways, this is the end of the video. I hope you liked it. I hope you didn't think it was too bad. Again, please give me an A+. Goodbye. Sayonara. Adios. I bid you adieu. That's spelled A-D-I-E-U, fun fact. I have, what, 20 seconds left, maybe, approximately left on my SD card, so I'm just gonna spend this next 20 seconds thinking of ways to say goodbye to you. Adios, muchacho. Until another day. May your blessings forever be recalled in the great expanse that is our universe. We're running out of time here. Something else. Donald!